Lamb. So here is the Chicago area. Police picture, dozens of people were shot in Chicago over the weekend. A bloody weekend in Chicago saw at least 40 people shot and four totally of fatally shot and killed, officials said, in a city that earlier had touted its decreasing crime and violence numbers. Now, I don't know where that came from, but this is something different altogether. So, some 15 of the 40 people that were shot were teenagers, according. When they were caught in the crossfire between two people firing at each other across the street. The man in his 50s was pronounced dead at the hospital. So between 1:30 and 5:30 p.m. on Saturday, three men ages 25, 26, and 22 were shot in separate incidences throughout Chicago. So it was unclear if the shooters were captured. But the violence didn't stop there. So 1 a.m. Sunday, another 18 people were shot. So a 20-year-old woman suffered a gunshot wound in the stomach when a passenger shot her in the stomach just after midnight in Logan Square. So about 5 miles away in the Lawndale, two people got out of a vehicle and fired at a crowd of people at a block party and escaped. The Chicago Tribune reported. So police said that four people were struck, including a 13-year-old and a 17-year-old boy, along with the 17-year-old girl. So a man, 25, was shot in the leg. So an 18-year-old was shot multiple times around 12:20 p.m. in the same neighborhood. The shootings killed at least four people. So another 8 people were shot around 12:40 a.m. when several shooters walked up to the group standing in the courtyard and began firing rounds, police said. So the youngest victim was 14 and the oldest was 35. The others were shot between 17 and 19 years old. About 10 minutes later, four more people were wounded in a drive-by shooting. So two 26-year-old men were shot in separate incidences at 1:30 a.m. Sunday, and one of them died. About a half an hour later, three women were caught in a crossfire while standing in front of the porch while two groups of men were firing at each other. So 6 people were wounded around 2:35 a.m. when two shooters approached a group standing on the sidewalk. Two boys, 11 and 14, were among the wounded. A 17-year-old girl was killed after she suffered a gunshot wound to her face Another boy, 14 years old, was shot in the left leg around 2:50 a.m. The last shooting reported was 6 a.m. left a man 33 years old suffering from a gunshot wounds on both legs. The violence-filled weekend comes after Chicago Police Department reported 10% decrease in shootings and murders during July. The number of shooting victims decreased from 332 compared to 415 reported in July on 2017. So the city that has been plagued by gun violence was on track to have fewer numbers of murders compared to last year, according to the statistics released by police. Well, that has all changed thanks to the gangs and the animals that are running around out there in Chicago that think being a gun toting thug be put on the map in a positive way, which it isn't. It's being put on the map in a negative way. And it's shining a light on people like a broad paintbrush that all of those people that are in that community is one of the bloodiest weekends of others that they've had in Chicago. This is really sad and it's really frustrating because most of the people that are in this area happen to be Black people. And what we need to be doing is sticking together, not killing one another. And these gangs, they got to go. They've got to find a way to get rid of all of this killing and stop all of this violence. I know it's not going to be that simple. It's not that easy. It's not a quick fix. It's not something that can be happen overnight. But, you know, the big problems that are happening in Chicago is lack of jobs, and there's a lack of unity with some of these people, because if they had enough unity with some of them, they wouldn't be killing one another like they are. And then you have the people who aren't trying to kill each other, who come together and they've been protesting against the violence. And those people are at their wits' end. They've been asking for help. Some of those communities have over policing, and the police are not really helping all of those people. Some of them are. Some of the police are helping them, but others aren't. They look at them all as criminals. And so you have a group, those gangs, that are making a really dirty name for Chicago and a dirty face for the people that are in the community that do really care and that aren't doing the killing. And so they need to figure out how to change that. They've been protesting, they've been asking for help, but somewhere along the lines, there's somebody or some bodies that have turned their back on those communities, and they haven't been as proactive as the residents that live there that have to be subjected to all of the violence. Nobody elects to want to be gunned down and killed. Something must be done about this violence. Many of those people have shut down streets, agents, but have they gotten anywhere? Now, I will say this. What I've heard is that some of the guns that come into the hands of these people to protect and serve, they go online and sell guns, and somehow it gets in the hands of the wrong people on the street. And of course, now they had to far out of control. These people that are in the community of Chicago are asking and have been asking for help. Those people who live there or have lived there most of their lives, And so you have some people who have lost their way. They've somehow gotten into these gangs. The gangs have adopted them as a family, and now they're wreaking havoc on the city and on the people that are living there that aren't about the violence, that want an end put to the violence. Killing your own people, killing your community members, killing your neighbors is not going to bring any unity whatsoever. It brings fear and more social divide. It's just sad. The killing has to stop. And it's not just in Chicago, it's in other places other than Chicago. There are gangs in other places. There are different places, and then sometimes, in fact, in other countries. And then somehow it gets over here and it goes back and forth. When will it ever end? That is the big question. So this was one of the bloodiest, one of the most recent, horrendous, violent acts since the decrease of the shootings that they've had in the past. It's almost as if it was short-lived. It's very sad. Chicago's bloody weekend sees at least 40 people shot and 4 of them were killed. It was sad reading that article because reading that article, it just seemed like it listed out more and more innocent people that were being shot at and targeted, all because of gang wars and turf wars, which probably involved drugs, turf, and money, and who knows ever whatever else. There's got to be an end to this violence. It doesn't help the community whatsoever. There are a lot of enemies to people in the lower income communities. And this is not supportive of your community and your fellow neighbors and your fellow residents at all. And innocent children, innocent people, bystanders are getting murdered and gunned down for the senseless violence that is going on in this city. Thanks for listening.